Again, if you've entered the room since the last time we said this, please use the Q&A box as what you see on the screen suggests. Let us know where you're logging in from. Just want to see where everyone's at physically, your class year and your major, if you're a current student, and if you're a prospective owl, let us know that too.
I see Dr. Hayes in the attendance as well, so that's great.
Awesome. All right, let's get rolling. Welcome everyone. First and foremost, of course, I'd like to open each week to just say we hope that you're well and safe, and your family is as well. Hope you're enjoying learning in a new way, and we appreciate you joining us here in community tonight at the Career Speaker Series. I just wanted to let you know it was an absolutely beautiful day on campus. I took a walk a short while ago around campus, and some of the early flowers are coming up and blooming, and it looks absolutely beautiful, and wish we could all enjoy it in community. But we're glad that you're here from wherever you're logging in from. I am Steve Fortier, proud member of the Keene State College class of 1986, as is my wife, and we are the parents of 2 other alumni owls from the classes of 14 and 15, so we're 4 for 4 as a family. My job here at Keene State is working in the president's office on external relations, so I help out with our government relations work and advocacy work, and help facilitate community partnerships and all that bring resources from the community to Keene State and Keene State out to the community. I'm filling in for a good friend and colleague of all of ours, Daniel Henderson, who created the Career Speaker Series in 2014. He's run them almost every Tuesday night since then. Daniel had a ski accident back in December, and while he's adjusting, I'm helping out this semester to run the series. For students of Keene State, we have 2 more events this semester, the 14th and the 21st. You can go to plug Career Speaker Series into the search engine at keene.edu to find out more about that, what the other 2 topics are. Moving to tonight, this is actually a plan B. If you were looking out ahead on that webpage, you saw that we were planning to have some leaders from an organization in the area. They are deep into the COVID-19 situation. It's a residential school, and so they are focusing, as they should be, on their students in their community. I went to someone we all know can make things happen very quickly here at Keene State College. I reached out to my friend and colleague, Dr. Karen Cangialosi, to see if we could, or she could help me organize a new event that was just a week ago. And here we are with 5 absolutely amazing young alums who are working or applying their learning and their passion for biology in different ways, which is what's so exciting to me about tonight's event. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. C.
Great, thank you, Steve. I don't think I really deserve any kudos. I think that these folks that are here are just incredibly fabulous. I'm so excited to see all of them, Audrey, Jamie, Sarah, Max, and who did I forget? Haley. And so it's just my absolute pleasure to be able to be hosting all of you tonight, and I'm so grateful that you've been willing to join us. And I know that the students of the juniors are going to be so thrilled to be edified by all of the great wisdom that you're going to be able to provide for us tonight. So let's just go ahead and get started. Are we gonna, Steve, are we gonna stop the screen share? Okay, great. Now we can see faces a little bit better. And I think that what I like to do when I'm kind of facilitating something on Zoom is like, if you have something that you want to say, you can physically raise your hand. You don't have to use the hand raising feature, but I'll ask some questions and ask each of you in turn to speak. But it may be when we get into dialogue that you say, oh, I've got something to say. So just go ahead and wave your hand in front of the camera, and we can jump in and have a little bit of back and forth that way too. Does that sound good? And a thumbs up can work if that sounds good. Yes, if you can hear me. Max, you can hear me? Yeah, there you go. All right. Sometimes it's always a little bit funny with the tech. So, all right. It's again, it's just really wonderful that you're all here tonight. And I'm going to start not in any particular order, to ask you each to introduce yourselves and say what year you graduated. And we'll just start with what you're up to right now, and then we'll move on to some other kinds of questions. So just a couple of minutes to say your name, what year you graduated, what you're up to. And Haley, how about we start with you? Is that all right? Okay.
Sure. So I'm Haley. I graduated in 2018, so 2 years ago, and I am currently working at MGH in a Harvard Stem Cell Institute affiliated lab, working on basic neuroscience questions such as, like, how to activate a stem cell to help in ensuring, lifelong neurogenesis. So basic wet lab research.
Great, thank you. And Audrey, would you like to go next? Don't forget to unmute.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So my name's Audrey Boraski, and I graduated in 2017. And I worked for a little bit at various places doing different like ecology and wildlife work. And now I am in my second year of graduate school at Antioch University in their conservation biology program.
Great, excellent, thank you. And Jamie, how about you next?
Hear me? Good.
So you're a little bit low in volume, so if you can get closer to your computer or speak up a little bit, that might work for us.
All right, my name is Jaime Marsh. I am currently still in the UVM Masters of Medical Science program. I decided to take a year off, so now I am working full-time at the hospital in the emergency department at UVM up in Burlington. I work as a mental health technician, but right now with the COVID going on, all of our lines are pretty blurred as our job descriptions, so I'm working pretty hands-on with all of the COVID patients that are incoming, so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Great. I'm sure people are going to have more questions for you about that.
Really?
So Max, would you like to go next, Max? Great.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay? Great. So my name is Max Foisey. I was class of 2019. I'm currently working at Intellia Therapeutics, which is a biotech company in Cambridge, Mass. And we focus on CRISPR-based technologies. And my particular group is working on different immunotherapies.
Excellent, thank you. All right, and Sarah, last but not least, by any stretch.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Sanders. I graduated from Keene State in 2015, which is a while ago now, and I cannot believe it's been almost 5 years. I worked a little bit at Keene State as a biotech for about a year, and then I went into medical laboratory science in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am a molecular pathology tech, and I'm working on COVID testing.
Okay, wow, that's exciting. So all kinds of interesting things that our alumni have been up to. And so I want to remind our participants to go ahead and type questions into the Q&A. Anytime you think of anything, anytime anybody says anything, to go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna ask another question. We're gonna go around, and then feel free to take as long as you like to explain whatever you think will be useful to our audience. And one of the things that we like to ask our alum is, what are the experiences that you had maybe at Keene State College, maybe even beyond Keene State College, that helped you sort of get where you are right now? Like, what would you say are some of the most important kinds of experiences that sort of shape that for you? And I'll give you a second to think. If somebody would like to go first, you can raise your hand. If nobody does in a few minutes, I'll probably just call on somebody. But if anybody would like to go ahead and ask and answer that question, like, what are the experiences that you had at Keene State or beyond Keene State that sort of helped you get where you are today and sort of shaped what you're thinking about, where you're going with your career? Any volunteers? Haley, great. Go ahead.
So like I mentioned before, I am doing neuroscience research. And so for me to be able to get that job after graduating, I needed to have, basic research experience before, because a lot of the times when you're applying to jobs, like research jobs, they require at least 1 year of research. So I was able to work in Dr. Pellettieri's lab for the 3 years that I was at Keene State, which helped me tremendously get this job now. And I was also able to get this job because Dr. Pellettieri had a connection with my PI. So not only did I learn technical skills that I needed to do my research job now, but I also had those connections that helped me get the job. And then in the end, from getting this job, it's going to help me apply to medical school this year. So it kind of, is in a stepwise manner. All of these little things just help throughout the years.
Great. Yeah. So I'm hearing research experience and networking and connections as some primary things. Yeah. So anybody like to go next? Max.
Yeah, so I would have to agree with Haley. I think my undergraduate research experience played an enormous role in getting me where I am today. I didn't graduate and come right to Boston. I initially worked at Dartmouth for a little bit, and I actually got that job through the IMBRI organization, which I'm sure Dr. C, most of your students know a lot about. But that organization allowed me to make connections as well as gain a lot of research experience. I had an internship there where I was able to work in a wet lab for 2 years. And I also worked at Keene in Dr. Bowers as well as Dr. Pellettieri's lab. So having that well-rounded undergraduate research experience allowed me to build skills that a lot of other undergraduates didn't have and made me a very competitive applicant when making the move to Cambridge.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, others have some things to talk about there. Jamie?
So I chose when I came to Keene State to not go into laboratory research, but I went into the psychology department, and I worked with Dr. Welkowitz, who was working with patients who had autism. And that's where I kind of learned that I preferred the research end of things, to be a little bit more hands-on with the physical patient. That's what interests me more. I always, for some reason, struggled with lab research or not just finding interest in it for myself. So when I had like the patient that was there, that was for me to interact with, that kind of also helped me get the job that I have now in the hospital, because I'm working one-on-one or two-on-one with patients at all times. So that definitely helped me. And some of our patients have autism. So that now that I have that experience with autistic patients, it's so much easier going forward. And it also opened up so many other doors for me that a lot of the other like MHTs or people in the emergency department don't have those skills. And just the general connections and like chemistry with Dr. Young and all those connections and networking has greatly helped me and get recommendations and referrals and etc. So
great, appreciate that. Okay, Audrey, you want to go next?
Yeah, I could say initially switching majors my freshman year from nutrition to biology, having the staff the faculty and staff be so supportive of the switch and me being like, I really like, you know, ecology and wildlife and all this stuff. And they're like, don't worry, we have everything here. It's such like an interdisciplinary biology program. And all the staff were just so supportive about everything. That was really great and really helped me a lot. And then all the classes have such good hands-on experiences. Just starting off in my ecology class, we went out on field trips to Goose Pond and did a lot of stuff that I'm interested in like doing now. In my vertebrate zoology class, we went on field trips to Harvard and other places. And ornithology, we were outside looking at birds, which is all stuff that's like right up my alley, which is good stuff that you can put on your resume with having those skills. So that was all helpful.
Great, yeah. So field experiences and connections with faculty, and so Sarah, you want to add some things to this? Talk about your.
I agree with everyone. Getting research experience hands-on early. I believe I started my sophomore year with Dr. Bowers. Has been really pivotal, critical, learning independent skills. I also really appreciated the interdisciplinary aspect of research in a sense. I remember in my senior year of college doing a program or a project with Dr. Launen, and we brought in some computer science folks as well because we were doing some bioinformatics. And just at that ground level, just bringing interdisciplinary different teams in did really help me prepare for working in the medical field as a molecular pathologist, because we work with not just our team, but we're also working with the doctors who are calling, the different people in the laboratory. So that work culture almost experience was really, really helpful. And I also just loved the smaller class size that Keene State offered, and just the one-on-one with the faculty. I went to a very small program for medical lab science, and we were encouraged a lot to work independently as well as have that close connection with the faculty. So Keene State's really prepared me very well for some of those more soft skills as well.
Great, that's great to hear. It's always music to my ears when people talk about interdisciplinarity and the way that we as scientists can gain from other disciplines other than just our own. Do any of the rest of you want to talk a little bit more about that? About maybe your not necessarily about your ISP courses per se, but other kinds of interdisciplinary experiences that you think may have helped shape where you are or helped you be successful generally? Again, anybody that would like to jump in around that. Sometimes I think about things that help shape our communication styles or skills. And if you guys want to think on that a little bit. And I don't know, Mark, if people are typing things into Q&A. Not sure if our some of our attendees may have some questions.
I'm afraid no questions yet, Karen, but I can report back a little bit that we, out of the people who responded, who are watching right now, we have 100% from New Hampshire, which is rather unusual. About 50% seniors, 50% juniors. And they are all bio majors with a scattering of a few psychology, chemistry, education, double majors. So I thought I'd pass that on to you. And then there's also, actually, here's one. Could you ask, or a question of other experiences outside the labs and classrooms that they now see as having been helpful or valuable? So is there any co-curricular experiences that may have been also helpful to their current jobs and career choice?
Great question. Co-curricular kinds of experiences, maybe athletics or other things that you were involved in. We're so busy being science students. Anybody have any Sorry?
Sarah's got her hand up, as does Haley.
Okay. Okay. I guess my delay here is, so go ahead, Sarah.
All right, yeah. So I really enjoyed tutoring at Keene State College. I did about 4 years of tutoring altogether. I think I had like a super senior year or something where I was able to tutor in the summer. And that was a really enriching experience for me, because even though I had gone through the class, I'd already gotten the grade, learned what I needed to know, going back over some of those earlier concepts with students, figuring out where they were coming from, how much they knew, and then building upon that to explain the concept was also really good for me, because I was relearning some things. But also it's helped me in my career path, because I think eventually once I get through some of molecular pathology, maybe 5-10 years down the road, we'll see, I'm interested in getting a master's of public health to bring science more to the layperson. And I'm really looking back at Keene State at that tutoring experience that was so easy to get into as a pivotal moment in my future career path of just how can I bring science, can make it more accessible to the public, and it's fueled some of that dream for sure.
Great, thank you. I think Audrey had her hand up there as well.
Hi, yeah. So I had my toes dipped in like a lot of different places when I was at Keene. I started out running on the cross country and track teams, and then I was injured for a while, but then I ended out running again. So just being in a whole different environment than the science center, it was really nice, and having a different group of people, but also being on a sports team, you really learn a lot about like time management and like leadership skills when you become like older on the sports team, and just a lot about that you don't realize at the time until afterwards. And I also did 3 alternative spring breaks when I was there, which I think is like something that I recommend for everyone to do. They offer so many, and they're so cheap compared to programs that aren't through a college. You can really find something that you're either interested in or just something that's totally different that you don't know anything about. And that sort of ties back into like the interdisciplinary thing. If you go on a trip that's like, this doesn't align with my career goals, or like, this isn't, relevant to my major, it doesn't matter, because you're learning about something that down the line you'll probably need to know something about, or you can relate it back to that. So it's really neat, and I think everyone should utilize that, or at least try to utilize that if they can. And if they can't, then volunteering is really good, and I did a lot of volunteering at Keene. Brett Thielen with the Harris Center, she is stationed at Keene State now, and I volunteered on a bunch of the citizen science projects that she has going on that is actually a part of like an internship that goes on there. But I didn't do the internship, but I was still able to get all the same experience and, put that on my resume and meet really awesome people and gain good skills just by, dedicating a couple hours of my week. So yeah, those are definitely like 3 big experiences that I think were pivotal aside from my academics.
That's great. This is like gold. I hope all of the students listening are writing these things down, because that was just like fabulous advice. Yeah, so Haley, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, so I knew after Keene that I really wanted to go to graduate school, such as medical school. So I knew it was important, especially since graduate schools are not just looking at your academics, but they're also looking at you holistically about, what else you're doing, extracurricular activities. So I wanted to become involved. And so I was interested in medical school, but there was no pre-med club at Keene since it's such a small school. So the one thing that's really unique about going to a small school is if they don't have that club, you can create that club. And so that's what I did. I was able to create a club, which was helpful for me, as well as many other students who were able to come in and learn about, different medical fields as well. And I think that taught me a lot about leadership and mentoring and time management, because I was trying to balance all these other things. And so I think it's extremely important, if you guys listening that want to go to graduate school or somewhere else, is to definitely get involved with some of the clubs or start your own club. I just think it's important to get involved with the community, especially at Keene.
Again, wonderful, wonderful advice. And I think the idea, if you don't see the club you want, start it yourself, and not to hesitate to do that, because that leadership experience that you get is so important. And the things that Audrey was saying about volunteering for things are just really, really important. Anybody else want to add to the conversation about co-curricular or other kinds of activities? I know my video is running a little slow, so if I don't see Jamie, go ahead.
So like a lot of the others, I was involved in a lot of the clubs on campus. I was a leader in the Chemistry Lyceum, and I was a pretty big participant in the Pre-Med Club, and then the Hungry Owl as well, startup. I know I've got a couple of the other panelists who are helpful with the Hungry Owl, but taking classes that you might not necessarily aren't going to be, I guess, helpful towards your future, like the marine biology course that we took with Dr. C in Turks and Caicos, getting scuba certified, while at the time I was like, like I'm not sure how helpful, like what this will do me in the future, but I did it anyways. And now there's actually a technical school, or not school, but a dive technical. They actually do rescue dives for the town of Colchester and Mallett's Bay up here in Vermont. So I've been looking into doing some like EMT rescue dives and stuff like that, where before I would have never have thought about that or guessed about it, like would have never come to me if I hadn't taken a tropical marine biology course and gone to Turks and Caicos with Dr. C. I think that course, in more ways than one, and the trip were very defining for my future, and knowing that I wanted to go into medicine. But now that I can see, like I love scuba diving, and I can pair that with medicine. It's just two things that I never thought I would ever find. So I'm very excited to see where I can take that. It's obviously still in the works, and some things are on hold now with COVID, but it's very exciting because I didn't have that option prior to Dr. C's Turks and Caicos trip.
Great, that's always gratifying to hear. Thanks for sharing all that, Jamie. How about you, Max?
Sure, yeah. So like everybody, I was involved in a bunch of on-campus organizations, as well as a few leadership positions, like the Pre-Med Club and the Hungry Owl. And I think positions like that not only teach you how to build a network of your peers and also your mentors, they allow you to learn really valuable communication skills. Things like creating content, like speakers for the Pre-Med Club or advertising for the Hungry Owl, are things that I find myself looking back on, especially in a business, in the industry side of biology, where you need to communicate with higher ups in the company and try and get a message across in a very overview sort of way. Those are experiences I look back on for help, and I think that was really valuable for me.
Great to hear that too. Excellent. Let's see, are we getting any questions coming in from the audience?
Yes, Dr. C. Here's a question. Excuse me. When you first graduated, did you search for any job you could get in your general field, or were you more focused from the start on getting a particular job?
Okay. Yeah, so anybody, you want to repeat the question real quick?
Sure. I think just to quickly summarize, did you take the first thing that was out there, or were you more focused on on getting something in maybe that related to what you did, perhaps some research you did as an undergraduate?
Okay, yeah, so that's a good question about what job to take first. And anybody want to just jump in?
Go ahead, Max.
Do you guys see me? All right. So I had an interesting experience where I had a job before I graduated. I was offered a position in a lab at Dartmouth around Christmas time of my senior year. So I never had to really look for a job, but that was due to my Embry experience. They saw that I was a good fit in the lab, and due to my networking, I was able to get my foot in the door. But the job I have now was also through networking. A former Keene State student, Casey Kimball, just sent me some information about the company, and I ended up applying, not really thinking I would go, but it ended up being a good fit. So I don't know if looking for the first thing you see is the right thing to do, but if it's a good fit, I think that's more important, especially in building a career. If it's what you want to do and something you can see as a step in the right direction or a rung on the ladder, I think that might be more important.
Yeah, I think it can be always a difficult decision, like this job isn't quite what I want. Should I hold out and wait for the best job? I think that depending on the opportunities and the timing, sometimes it's okay to take a job that may not be so-called in your field, because you can still benefit by making connections, learning communication skills, learning computer skills. So depending on the scenario for different individuals, you might take something that's not quite what you see as so-called in your field, but ends up being more relevant than you think. Anybody else want to sort of speak to that on the panel here? Sarah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dr. C. I think it's important to take a job that may not be exactly right within your field of where you want to end up, but kind of to treat it like when we take some of those interdisciplinary studies, like for ISPs or whatever, to kind of treat it as, I don't know a lot about this particular bio job or something, but I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see if maybe I might like it more than I expect. You never know. Or maybe I know for sure that I don't want to do that. And for me, when I graduated, I had little idea of what I really wanted to do. And it was incredibly helpful just to continue in research with Dr. Launen, which is what I ended up doing for about a year before I figured out what else I wanted to do. So yeah, so don't be afraid of those stepping stone jobs. That can be actually quite beneficial to figuring out what you want to do or what you don't want to do.
Great, great advice. I see Jamie had her hand up as well.
Yeah, so my first job in the hospital was actually at Dartmouth. And then when I moved up to Burlington, I moved into a different, more patient hands-on position, but it was in the resource department. And so the resource department can be deployed all throughout the hospital, any floor and every floor. It didn't matter. And I got to see very different levels of patient care. So I could see like ICU, and I could see any step down units, or I could see neurology or cardiology, orthopedics. I got to see, I apologize, my dog is, she's still a puppy, but I got to see so many different levels and acuities, and I got to see so many different things, and I got to work in the emergency department, and I got to see floor medicine, and it was seeing certain things that I was like, you know, like this isn't what I want to do. This isn't what I want to be a part of. And I realized that I wanted to be definitely in emergency medicine. It's not the position that I'm in now. Like, it's not a forever position. It's a job to get me exposed to emergency medicine and get me exposed with other individuals in medicine. I get to work hands-on with emergency medicine residents and fellows, and the surgeons. We're all very close. We all talk. So I get a lot of exposure that way. And there's a couple other techs who work there, and they're all also going to med school. and have applied and have gotten in within the past like couple of weeks, I believe. So they're all going to med school. So it's allowed me to just branch out and see like the wrong job when resource led me to a job that like is more focused and still not necessarily where I want to be, but like that first wrong step led me to a much better step. So I agree with Sarah and everyone else that sometimes knowing what you don't want to do is better than knowing what you really want to do at the end. So
Yeah, and so not necessarily a wrong step, just a partial or a pathway kind of step.
and it still taught me a lot along the way. It wasn't, I shouldn't have said wrong step. It taught me a lot in the long run. And things I wouldn't have known if I hadn't gone on resource. But now I know. And yeah, so now I know more concentrated like what I want to do. So.
Excellent, excellent.
And my name is Lucy, whoever just asked.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Anybody else want to speak to that? Or maybe Mark has another question from the audience? Or Haley, go ahead.
Sure. I just know when I was applying for jobs, I probably started in April, and I knew I wanted to be, at first I just started applying to jobs specifically in Boston because that's where I wanted to go. And then I got my job in neuroscience, and I had no background in neuroscience. I had taken a class with Dr. Whittemore about neurobiology, but going into it, it was like eye-opening. Like I really didn't know how many other topics there were about neuroscience out there. And so the lab that I joined was more social behavior neuroscience stuff. And from this job, I learned that I really like neuroscience, but the part that I really enjoy is more the molecular side, the disease aspect, like Alzheimer's and microglia and like inflammation. So I think, picking a job, like everybody said, I think will actually lead you in all these different directions. So I don't know if I would worry, too much about, was this going to be a right job or is this going to be a wrong job? I think you will see how it fits in with your life later on. I'm sure people will look back 10 years and be like, wow, like this really transformed my career, especially since, working at a job will give you experience. So that maybe that experience will let you get another job that you really want, that you wouldn't have been able to get without this stepping stone.
Great, great. And again, even those experiences that seem unrelated, like if you work as a manager in a department store or something, like you can still glean experiences from something like that if that's something that you feel that you have to do for a little while. And this may sound like an old person saying this, but you're still young. You'll have lots of opportunities to change jobs and to do different things as well. Sarah.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off on that, Dr. C, because when I was doing my interview for medical lab science, one of the things they asked me was, okay, so you've had some research experience, you've had some biology courses, you've done some different things. Tell us about something that you've done that's not related to science at all. Here's a scenario. Your teammate walks in late and you have all this work to do. Do you have any other managerial, any other experience in a different job that's not related to science that you could talk to us about? And so those stepping stone jobs, that's where that experience comes in. Those soft skills, like, hey, yeah, actually I do. I was a manager for, one of the shifts at Hannaford or something, and then this happened, and this is how I resolved it. And that shows a way that you could talk about your soft skills in some of these different jobs that may not be quite in the science field or quite what you want to do.
Excellent advice. I think sometimes we forget, like we can be perceived as narrow scientists that don't have a broader range of experiences. And just repeating what Sarah said, those stepping stone experiences are a way to broaden that. So Audrey, you had your hand up too.
Yeah, so basically what everyone else has already said, I would definitely agree that any job in any field and your whole life is gonna somehow benefit you, or at least, you can figure out a way that it can. But speaking to the point that the person who asked the question about like generally in your biology field, I think I understood what they were asking. So if it was just like a general biology job, but it wasn't like exactly what you wanted to do, I would say definitely apply for it also, because you might change your mind at what you were interested in doing just by doing that job. Um, you might realize like, oh, that's something I actually really do want to do, or I don't know. Or
Oh,
yeah.
great. That's great. So, Mark, are we getting more questions from the attendees?
Yeah, they're still coming in. So one of the attendees is wondering about how useful has LinkedIn been for you in networking and finding jobs?
Okay. I know Sarah's a big LinkedIn user. I might pick on Sarah for the moment.
um, uh, how useful has it been? So I created a LinkedIn account, I think when I graduated Keene State, collected a lot of colleagues, classmates, graduated professors, kind of built a network for the greater Boston area, but then I moved south. So I guess I need to work on North Carolina as well. I have not, there's certainly recruiters that reach through to see if you're interested in getting a job or on their waiting list for a job. So they're, as far as actually getting one, I more looked at Indeed.com and other sites like that. But I think there is no harm in creating a site. I think getting connections and sharing articles, reading what people are doing in the field that you're interested in, or following some of these larger colleges, I think there's a lot of benefit there. But as far as the job aspect, I can't quite speak to that.
So maybe broader social media networking and tools of searching as opposed to just LinkedIn itself. Audrey.
Yeah, so I've been a pretty active LinkedIn user for a while now. I started mine like my junior year of college because I had a friend who was in senior seminar, and at the time that was a requirement, was to make a LinkedIn. So I was like, I'm just gonna start now.
Lauren started that, yeah.
And yeah, so I really liked it. I have had no luck finding a job on it though. I just sort of consider it like another tool in my tool belt. It's just like one more thing you can have, and at least for the area of interest that I'm in, which is like the wildlife, environmental biology area. But I have used it like on my resume. I put like the link for it on there. You can do that so it looks like kind of nice, and you can put it on other places like business cards and whatnot, just so people can see that. And I do have this kind of strange story. I always tell people when like looking for jobs, just reach out to everyone and talk to everyone you can. And if you're shy and you don't want to talk in person, like email them or whatever. And my first summer after I graduated Keene State in 2017, I was working just a seasonal position in New York doing freshwater ecology stuff. And it was like coming to an end, and I was like, oh my God, I need a job. I don't have a job. So I went on LinkedIn and I looked up people that did really interesting things that I would be interested in. And there was this one guy who was a bat biologist, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna message him and ask him all these questions. So I just messaged this random guy in like Pennsylvania, and I asked him all these questions, and he got back to me. And it was like some of the best advice I'd ever heard, like so specific to the area of interest I'm in right now. So you can like find people and see what types of like certifications they have, and maybe if you need those or whatever to get to the career that you want to get at. So it is definitely helpful. I just don't know if it's directly helpful at finding jobs all the time.
I love that story. I think it's so great because, the ways in which we try to emphasize different ways that we can network and make connections with people in the world, and like using certain technological tools to reach out to somebody. And I like that story because I hope it will encourage others that are listening to say, maybe I'll randomly message the bat guy that I'm interested in, maybe not about bats, but whoever your bat guy is, like, this person's doing something I've always wanted to do. And what do you really have to lose? Like, are they going to just ignore you or say, whatever? So just encouraging people to do that with LinkedIn, with Twitter, with whatever other tools that you might might use. So others on the panel, Haley?
I know from my experience, Twitter has become kind of another, LinkedIn with relating to like job opportunities. So one just example is my job is coming up in July. So my current PI posted an ad on Twitter to find another lab tech. And so when he posts it, then it gets retweeted from all of, his followers, and then their followers retweet it. And so that's actually how we hired our new lab tech. Was he was actually following our PI and was very interested in his work and saw this and then applied through it there. And I'm just not sure if he would have seen that if my current PI right now didn't post this job ad on Twitter and it was just on the MGH, open job opportunities.
Great, great. Again, a great story, and maximizing, why not be on LinkedIn and Twitter and, whatever these places are where you might be able to increase your reach. So others on the panel want to speak to that, or if Mark wants to jump in with another question, or Max, go ahead.
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit to that. So I've had a LinkedIn, I want to say since freshman year of college, if not my senior year of high school. And like most of the people on the panel, it's sort of just a line on my resume and just sort of another check in the box in terms of tools I have. And I don't think I've ever used it to reach out to anybody, but I'm reached to by recruiters and things like that. And I do forward those to people looking for jobs that I do know. But Haley mentioned this, but it's the open website or the job listings on whether it's MGH or Dartmouth or different schools or universities you might be interested in. I think those are huge opportunities for jobs that you may not really know about or may not be super public, because they're posted there. They have to be posted there, and all the information is there. You may not know what you're interested in or what you want to be interested in, but you'll find a job there that you might sort of fit into better than anybody else, and it might be some way to get your foot in the door.
Great, great. I love all of the advice that you guys are giving here. Should we move to a next question, Mark?
Sure, Karen. Actually, I wanted to see if Dr. Strong was willing to join us. He had some things in the question column that I thought he might want to join as a panelist, if I can bring him in.
Get him in here. We can hear from his own voice. I'm sure he wants to say hello to everybody too.
Hold on one second.
There you go.
Oh.
I heard you, Scott.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Yeah.
Can you see me? I don't know
No video, but we can hear you.
Okay. Well, it was just a comment about a recent grad. I know that Karen and I have both worked with. He had 2 job offers on the table recently in the biotech industry. And I had several discussions with him about which way to go. He opted to take the job that actually had a considerably lower salary, but it had much greater opportunity for professional growth and development. I've heard the tools in your toolbox analogy already. So he could learn a lot more methodologies and be at a more cutting edge of science than in the other job, which he was just more of a technician. And he opted for the lower salary, but professional growth. So as regards to people taking the first job, I think another consideration is what can you learn in that job to advance yourself?
Great. Definitely really good advice for sure. Yeah, and Steve, you might remind me, we have till 7 o'clock, or we're doing okay for time?
We are. We promise everyone we'll be done by 7:15. So it's
7:15. Okay, so we have a little more time.
7:15. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Excellent. So yeah, I don't know, Mark, were there more questions or different questions?
Yeah, Karen. This one, I'm going to direct this to Jamie, just because she had mentioned some of her experience working in the resource unit at Dartmouth. The question is, in what ways does your career affect the kind of life you lead or life you live, or does it affect the lifestyle? Does your choice of what you want to do in the field, is it dependent on maybe what kind of lifestyle it would allow you to live?
So right now, I'm actually currently working at UVM, and I was working at UVM Medical Center in the resource department. I had another job that was not as hands-on in Dartmouth, but right now I'm still at UVM. I just transferred to a different role that had a lot more responsibility in the emergency department. I'm still relatively new in the role. I currently work night shift. Oh, hi, Dr. Strong. I currently work night shift, and it's not an easy lifestyle. On the days off that I do have, I am preparing for the days that I have on. I don't work 312s anymore. That was what I was working, was 312s all overnights, and it allowed me the time to, you know, become a normal human being again. But then now I'm working 410s, and with everything going on right now, it's all hands on deck. Like, the National Guard is outside our emergency department right now. As last week, I'm not sure of the statistic this week, but we had the highest, Lucy, we had the highest death rate per capita as a city in the entire United States. So right now it's all hands on deck. It's really sad and it's really difficult to watch.
Are you working directly with people that have coronavirus?
Yeah, last week I was with an individual who had dementia. It's a long story, and I have to obviously adhere to HIPAA policies and stuff. But I was in the room with them for over 3 hours, I believe, and it was a positive COVID. So almost every single person in the emergency department is working full time, if not more, picking up urgent. Urgent is they give us a phone call and say that we're short staffed, and we need help. And so anybody who can come in comes in. So right now, I mean, like, in general, everybody's life is staying at home. It's hard to say because my life prior to this wasn't much different either, but now it's a little bit more serious and more hands-on and more intensive. And I'm still working nights. It's difficult. I have a roommate right now, so I'm looking to move into a hotel room soon. It's definitely going to flip my life upside down. I haven't seen my family or my parents or anybody in about a month. So it definitely affects your lifestyle. Hopefully, in general, it's not because of the pandemic in the future, but right now, it's not easy. I don't know how to sugarcoat it, but it really is difficult. It's just as socially isolating for healthcare workers as it is for individuals who are just staying at home. I can't see my family. I can't see friends. My roommate hasn't been home in weeks, pretty much. I have Lucy, which has been a godsend, but if I have to move into a hotel room, Lucy has to be picked up by my parents. So wouldn't be surprised if it gets to the point if I just have to stay at the hospital. So definitely a lifestyle, but at the same time, if you love what you do, then it's not an issue. And I do love what I do, so.
I really appreciate you sharing your story. It's a difficult time, and we're all so appreciative of you being here tonight, and considering that you're dealing with the front lines of this, and I can hear in your voice that it's difficult. I think that there's also information when people think about going into medical fields that there are difficulties associated with it, that it's that passion that you might have for the field and the work that you want to do that drives you, and that sort of, how do those things outweigh some of the toll that it takes on your life? And I think there's probably no easy answer to that question, but think you're really answering well.
I mean, there's always going to be something that you don't like with your job, and there's always going to be trade-offs with it. And I didn't sign up for this job thinking that there was going to be a pandemic. Nobody signed up for a healthcare field position with mindset that there was going to be a pandemic. But when I need it for the world, no, because I'm learning so much. Everybody's learning so much. And when they say rules and policies are changing 6 times a shift, I'm not kidding. They're changing 6 to 7 times a shift. So it's been, if I won the lottery, would I still keep my job? Yeah, I would.
Good answer. Yeah.
You know, you always have the difficult shifts. Last week, I don't think I didn't have an easy shift, and it was a long week, and even at the end of the week, they called urgent, and I still picked up. So I still picked up the shift. So you always have those like one moments that make it all worth it, even if it's just 5 seconds. You always have those moments at work that make everything worth it, no matter how difficult it is. So that's how you know you love your job. So
thank you. Thanks for all the work that you're doing, and again, thanks for sharing all of that with us. Are there others on the panel that want to talk about work-life balance a little bit more generally, or anything either related to our current situation? I think when you said nobody signed up for this, I think Scott and I could probably talk as professors. Nobody signed up for teaching fully online, and nobody signed up for working at home, and so a lot of us are kind of in that situation. And so we're trying to, talk about future careers with the idea that perhaps someday we won't be entirely in this situation anymore. And even in that future, work-life balance is always a challenge. So if anyone on the panel wants to jump in, talking either about current or general things related to work and life, I'd love to hear from you. Sarah.
Yeah. So, Jamie, I really relate to you. I'm not in the hospital setting right now. I work in a reference laboratory, but we do in-house coronavirus testing. We've been doing this for about 5 weeks now. And speaking to work-life balance, it's all hands on deck. And I was not expecting my first job out of a grad medical school program to be with a pandemic, of course. But it's been such a learning experience. And one of the things I think that's helped me stay sane between all of the schedules changing, I did a 13.5-hour shift a couple weeks ago. Then I did a couple 10-hour shifts and some 8-hour shifts, and I had some time off, and then I didn't. And so honestly, my work-life balance it's somewhere in there. We're all in this together, and we're going to get through it. But I think one of the biggest things that's helped me stay sane is having a good team, people that you can rely on, people you can trust, people who will take that shift for you, or they'll call in, or I'll take that extra hour, I'll take that extra bench, let me handle those 100 COVID samples that are coming your way. That has helped me stay sane, and also kind of try to process, because I'm not working, of course, with patients directly, but we're still feeling some of this psychological aspect of handling all these potential COVID samples and positive patients. I remember when I got my first positive on my COVID run, I was like, okay, here it is. This is it. So this is real, exactly. And yeah, we're in this together. We gotta stick together as a community, as healthcare workers, as lab workers, and being part of that, a team, has been really helpful for that. But as far as work-life balance right now, it's absolutely insane. But my hope is that it won't be that way for long, and we'll get through this.
Great, thank you, Sarah. That's again a wonderful story. I really appreciate you sharing it. I mean, all the things that all of you are saying just make me so incredibly proud to have been a professor of yours at some point in the past, and to work with all of you. It's just so amazing. Others, yeah, I see Dr. Strong's like double thumbs up on that too. Anybody else want to share something? I think one of the things you said, Sarah, was about the people around you, like those people that are willing to like go to bat for you when you need them. And that reminds me that sometimes the people that you work with can be even more important than the job that you're doing when you're thinking about choosing a job. Like, who's there? Who are the people that are going to support you? If I'm doing this job for a month and people around me don't feel like supportive people, maybe I don't want to be doing that anymore. So it can be difficult to assess that, but when you're looking for a job and when you interview, you want to remember that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And that's one way that you can kind of ascertain a little bit about that work environment, that social work environment. Like, what's it like to work here? And so that can be a really important criteria. So, and maybe I should just throw out, does anybody have any like general advice that you would give to people that are thinking about, you know, looking for grad programs or jobs, anything that we haven't already talked about, either around that or anything else that anybody wants to say? Too vague. Max.
So I can speak about, I guess, both of the things you were talking about, Dr. C. First off, the team and culture aspect of a job is, I think, extremely important. And I always make sure when I was interviewing for positions to ask about the culture. And I was kind of lucky in a sense that the job I have now, the interview ended up being an all-day interview. So I was interviewed by multiple people on the team, as well as cross-functional people. And I was really able to see how they work together and how the company works together and get a sense of where I would fit. So I think doing a lot of background research on how things will work with who you'll work with is as important as the work that's actually being done. And as for general advice to current Keene State students looking at grad programs or jobs or things like that, talk to your professors. They're experts in their field and they have good jobs, so they kind of know a thing or two about getting a good job right out of college. And I've received great advice since sophomore year to, you know, graduation and beyond that. Definitely talk to them. They're a great help.
Great. Anything else, Haley?
I just know that when you guys are applying for jobs, this is kind of a weird time now. I mean, everything's kind of at a standstill. So I just want you guys to not get discouraged if you don't get a job right away, because a lot of places are on hold for hiring. So right now, MGH is not hiring anybody. And I don't know when that is going to stop, but I just don't want you guys to get discouraged and be like, you know, I've graduated, it's May and I still don't have a job offer, but you know, just keep applying and just keep waiting. But you know, there's no rush right away to get a job, especially during this time, because it's uncertain for everybody, but you will get a job after everything settles down.
Thanks, Haley. I really appreciate you saying that. I think there is a lot of uncertainty right now, and people are wondering, like, what am I supposed to do? I know some students that had internships lined up, that those got canceled. And so it's a difficult time for all of us, but to kind of keep kind of moving forward with making connections, lining up possibilities for after that point at which we can get out there. And so thank you so much for that. Anything else? Or Mark, do you have some other questions from the crowd, or?
The last question really just kind of hits on what you were asking Dr. C about looking for jobs, and if the panelists were in a position where they're at to hire new graduates from Keene State, what would you be looking for? What
I love that
and
question.
what in particular, you know, would you be looking for that they took a class from one of the particular faculty members? Is it something that they did in the classes? What particular experience makes people stand out from Keene State?
Great question. I love that question. If you were hiring one of these folks now, what would you be looking for? Lots of things, maybe. Max.
So I'll just give it a shot, I guess. I think that Keene State prepares their students very well for the job market. And I know in my experience, maybe I can't say what I would look for in an applicant, but what was seen in me as an applicant is, do I have the experience to fill the hole that was needed at the company? Could I do the work that they needed? And a lot of that came from my technical experience. But in terms of getting the job, the communication skills and leadership skills I learned at Keene State was, I think, the same, if not a bigger part in my success in the role. So I think an applicant that can communicate well, communicate their past, their history, what they've learned at Keene, as well as put their money where their mouth is really. Can they do the work in the lab, whether it's a lab or not? Can they show up? You know, that's one of the biggest parts, is just showing up to the job. And I think that's a big part of what was seen in me and what a lot of Keene State students bring to the table when applying for jobs.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to volunteer? Or I see Audrey thinking. Yeah, go ahead. I could tell you got stuff.
Yeah, I was writing some things down so I wouldn't forget. So something that I think almost like every single job out there is really interested in, and like what I've been asked a bunch of times is like, are you a quick learner? And like, how can you give an example of a time when, you know, you needed to figure out something really quickly? And I think that's something, it's a hard skill to have, I guess, but it's something that if you can master, then you'll get any job, because that's what they really want. They want people to come into a job and learn how to do the task quickly so that they can get on their feet. And then like what Max was saying, communication is so huge. More specifically, like asking questions whenever you have a question, not just like assuming you know what you're doing and just being too ashamed to ask questions. It's actually like a really brave thing to do, be asking questions to people when you don't understand something, or you don't think you're going to do something correct, because otherwise it could be bad. That's all I could think of right now, but I'll try to keep writing down more.
Oops. Yeah, it's great that willingness to seek information when you don't have it, to not be I'm going to look stupid if I ask this question, and it actually looks better if you ask questions when you need help than to not. So yeah, anybody else want to kind of address that question? Sarah. Great.
Yeah, I agree with asking questions. If you go into anything related medically, ask the question. It is more important to know the answer that might save someone's life versus your own, well, I got this, I can do this. Also, I would look for someone being a self-starter, someone who's taking initiative, who's independent. And as far as what Keene State can do as well that they've done is a lot of those research programs, a lot of those academic excellence conferences, those projects really do show the initiation, the motivation, the independence, and that's yes, we're looking for, if I were hiring, we're looking for someone who can do the work, who's good communicative skills and such, but also can bring creativity and dreams and initiation to the job as well. So yeah,
I love that. I love what you said there about bringing dreams, especially. So that's awesome. Other thoughts? I know we have about 5 minutes.
So Karen, if you don't, or Dr.
Yeah.
C, if you don't mind if I hop in and maybe summarize a bit?
That would be great, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is I think this is week number 7. So what's been beautiful about this, while focused on biology tonight and amazing things that your panelists are doing, there are some themes that run through each of the weeks, and in order of my notes, but the whole social networking component, both within the Keene State College community, but outside as well, which was talked about by several of you. Involvement in both, clubs related to your studies, but others too. I love the comments about alternative spring break and other activities like that. A few weeks ago, when we had a panel talking about internships, we had the CEO of a local company who has not only had many dozens of Keene State students as interns, he has hired many of them. And when asked what he's looking for, he said, were you on a church youth group? Were you on a sports team? Were you like, because, and to tie that to a comment that was just made a few minutes ago, I want people that are socially connected and have those group skills, because I can teach them anything about the job. Right? So that was said recently as well. And I love the focus. My background, Audrey and I talked about this through email, but I'm both a Keene State alum and an Antioch, New England alum from long time ago, way ahead of Audrey. But my studies are in organizational behavior. And so to hear young alums, young professionals talking about the importance of culture and doing the research on a company and their culture. Dr. C, your point that you're interviewing the company as much as they're interviewing you, you want to make sure there's a good fit. Again, I love that it may be a stepping stone job, but to make it a stepping stone that feels right, that feeds your passion, that taps into your passion, your values, and things like that that are really important, whether it's a department store or a lab, biology lab. So I think those are some of the themes that have run through every single week, whether it's about internships or last week, journalism, right? Another industry that's totally being turned upside down at this very moment in time. And to have the publisher of Yankee Magazine and the Keene Sentinel both say, I need people who are resilient, who have a breadth of skills, like you've talked about, that we develop here at Keene State College, because the jobs are going to be changing real quickly. Michael Brindley talking about his role at NHPR, where he was a reporter for the Nashua Telegraph. Now he's at NHPR, and the changes from long, hour-long broadcasting to short-term vlogging and podcasts and all. So he's adapting very quickly and feels like he's an alum from 2003, nearly 20 years ago, but still is relying on the skills he gained at Keene State College, the breadth of the his training and education here is serving him really well right now in the changing landscape of radio. So those are a few themes that I teased out that have run through each of our weeks so far with the spring career speaker series. So with that, I want to thank all of the panelists. What an amazing group you are. I'm very proud to be an alum here at Keene State like you, and I'm just so impressed with the work that's coming out of that department. Thank you, Dr. C, for pulling this together so quickly and doing a great job facilitating. It was nice to have a night off. I even dressed casually. I wore my Keene State sweatshirt tonight instead of a suit and all. And thank you to everyone who joined us in community to learn with us, to share with us. It's been great to be together with, I think what I saw, about 40 participants tonight. So that's a new record since we've gone virtual. So that's fantastic. So again, thank you, panelists. It's great to see familiar faces for some of you.
I want to thank the panelists again too, Haley and Audrey, Jamie, Max, and Sarah. You guys are just stupendous and remind us, I'm sure Dr. Strong would agree with this, of why we are just super happy to go to work every day, even if it's virtually here. So thank you so much.
You're 100% correct, Karen. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you guys, really, for being here.
It's great. Stay in touch.
Quick advertisement for the students the next 2 weeks. Next week, Dr. Chitra Kaur will be on talking about an initiative that she and Danielle Henderson and a few others are developing. You'll be the first to hear about it and where it's headed, but it's called Pathways to Professional Learning. And it's a vision where Keene State students will enter with hands-on learning experiences with community partners, corporate partners, and otherwise in their freshman year, and see that all the way through all 4 years. So that's a very exciting initiative. And then on April 21st, our final for this semester, David Bonnet, an alum from 93, a serial entrepreneur, will be here talking about the skills that he draws upon to be successful in a wide range of different businesses that he has started, sold, and then moved on to something new. So I think both of those will be exciting as well. Thanks to everyone who's live tweeting, who's sharing out what you're learning tonight. It's a great way to keep the learning going beyond this hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, and check the KSC Bio hashtag, all of the panelists, to see what folks are saying too.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you, panelists. Thank you, Dr. C. Thank you, Dr. Strong. Thank you for everyone who joined us on tonight's webinar. Hope to see you next week.